February 12th. A pact with the Garitzik. Jeanie rang the bell, sounding the alarm and calling the townsfolk from the fields. They came, running hard, but carrying their tools with them. Even a rake was more useful against the marauders than an empty hand. A bell rope was not. The window to the tower darkened, followed by the sound of scrabbling claws and a heavy thump. Jeanie gave the bell rope one final tug and turned. "You cannot take me," she said, but the dog-faced gargoyle that had landed in the tower smiled. "The terms of the pact were clear," it said. "Your time is up. The village is not secure, the raiders not defeated," she returned, keeping her voice even. She knew the terms of her pact, knew the Garitzik kept the deals they made to the letter, if not the spirit, and from what she could see, not even the lettered terms were complete. This did not faze the gargoyle. The creature wrinkled its lip in a Garitzik smile. "Look again," it said, and gestured toward the view beyond the tower. Giving it a cautious stare and wide berth, Jeanie did as it said, crossing to the tower's edge and looking out. What she saw made her breath catch in her throat and her heart lift. The pennants of 100 knights fluttered on the breeze, and then they lowered, and the knights charged the marauders, pursuing her people. Jeanie stood and watched as the knights hunted down each and every one of the would-be invaders, the pennants vanishing in a sea of blood. She watched as the knights regrouped and rode up to the gates, and with horror she understood. "They mean to take the village," she said, tears edging her horrified whisper, and she turned on the gargoyle, her fury rising. "You lied!" Its tail lashed from side to side, and its face took on a thunderous hue, but its voice was calm and clear when it replied. "We did not lie," it said. "We made a pact. You for the security of your village, us for your service. And we made another pact, so that your pact held some value." Its words stung. Jeanie had not thought of what she might be worth to them, had not placed any conditions on their use of her. She'd been desperate when she sought them, and not thinking clearly at all. Her heart sank, and she looked away from it, watching as the knight's leader called for the village to surrender to his rule, listening as the village elders asked his terms and agreed. Knowing how they intended to rule eased some of her grief, and she turned to face the monster who had come to fetch her. "You have fulfilled your part of the pact," she said, flinching but not trying to flee as it closed the distance between them. She felt its claws close over her shoulder as its wings wrapped her, and then the world shuddered and slid. When it steadied again, the gargoyle unwrapped her, and she was standing before the village gates, standing before the prince she'd fled. And now she understood the bargain she had been, for to this man she was a prize, and she had eluded him for 5 long summers and an autumn. Her heart froze, but the Garitzik did not relinquish its grip. Jeanie looked up, taking in the fierce features of the prince and making herself meet his ebony eyes, and she wondered what she was to him, that he had found a price to which the Garitzik would agree. "These lands are mine," he told her, and she waited, wondering what he would add, forcing him to oblige. "And you are their key, the heart of them in human form." She'd been told that before and did not know what to say to it. She was merely human and had never pretended to be otherwise. She continued to stare, taking in the tusks that jutted from the prince's jaw, the leathered green of his skin, and she held her ground. 5 years she had hidden from him, and for 3 of those she had hidden from the marauders who'd sought her for themselves. The marauders had looked more human, but their intentions had not been. Jeanie had wondered how long she could stay free of them. She stood frozen, wondering what this inhuman knight planned for her. He gestured toward the village. "My people are pledged to the land. to the protection of your people. He gestured toward Jeannie. To you. He stopped, the villagers shifting restlessly behind her at his words, the knights shifting in their saddles in response. For the land to be whole, heart and talon must join. Our people live and work together. Our bloodlines must mix. So had said the prophecy. It had been why she'd run. Looking at him now, Jeannie felt her heart beating with apprehension, felt her mind racing as she tried to see what the future might hold. She startled when the Garitzik spoke. The demons must not be allowed to rise. Its words brought an amused smile to the prince's bestial face. And I thought your kind did not take sides, that the pact was all. Jeannie felt the gargoyle's grip tighten and wished the man had stayed silent. We're not taking sides, it said. I am merely stating a fact. And yet, Jeannie knew them better. The Garitzik did nothing unless it benefited their kind. This barter with the prince must be important indeed if the creature was trying to influence it. And the prince might not have the looks of a man, but he did not seem to have a demon's heart either. What do you want with me? She asked, and he held out his hand. A bride, a partner, and a friend, he said. But why me? Because you are the heart of the land, and I am its claws. We should be one. There were worse fates. Jeannie reached out and took his hand. And yes, I will be your bride, your partner, and your friend, for as long as our roads entwine. The Garitzik let her go, watching as she mounted behind the prince and wound her arms around his waist. It raised its head. Is our pact complete? And her prince replied, Do you consider it so? And the gargoyle's eyes flickered from the prince's face to Jeannie's and back. For now, it said, you. And her prince bowed his head. For now. And the Garitzik vanished from before them, leaving Jeannie to wonder exactly what kind of barter her fiancé had made.